In the beginning, before TikTok feeds, before self-help bestsellers, before motivational coaches filled stadiums with roaring promises, there were men who faced storms of destiny with nothing but silence and thought. And yet, their silence was louder than the applause of kings. Their discipline was sharper than any sword. Their resilience was greater than the empires that rose and fell around them. We live today in a world obsessed with personal development. Work harder, wake up earlier, grind, hustle, consume, repeat. But ask yourself, who built the very foundations of this obsession? Who were the first architects of the human soul? Who carved the blueprint of personal mastery into the stone of history? Not influencers, not CEOs, not New Age gurus. It was the Stoics. Men like Epictetus, born into chains, yet freer than emperors. Men like Marcus Aurelius, an emperor himself, yet humble enough to remind himself he was only dust and bone. Men like Seneca, who knew that wealth was fragile, that life was borrowed time, and that true riches lay in the command of one's own mind. They did not post reels. They did not chase clicks. They fought wars, not just on the battlefield, but within the dark corridors of their own minds. And this is the secret most of modern self-help refuses to admit. Personal development did not begin in Silicon Valley. It did not begin in TED Talks or at Tony Robbins seminars. It began in the ashes of Rome, in the slave markets of Epirus, in the blood-soaked sand of gladiatorial arenas, in the silence of emperors who could have commanded the world but instead commanded themselves. Imagine a young soldier standing on the edge of battle, his hands trembling, his breath shallow. Around him, chaos, the clash of steel, the screams of men, the smell of iron and death. And yet, in that storm, he remembers the words of a philosopher. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And suddenly, the storm does not own him. He owns the storm. This is the origin of personal development, not life hacks, not productivity tricks, but warfare of the soul. The Stoics were not self-help authors. They were warriors of the unseen. They fought demons of fear, temptation, greed, and rage, and every battle they won laid down a stone in the road you and I now walk when we speak of self-improvement. But here is the truth nobody tells you. We are not the generation that discovered personal growth. We are the generation that forgot it. We have inherited a treasure chest carved from centuries of suffering, of discipline, of victories won not with armies, but with minds sharpened like steel. Yet we scroll past it. We ignore it. We trade it for empty affirmations and dopamine sugar highs. And so, before we go further, let us go back to the origins, back to where personal development was not a hobby, but survival. Close your eyes. Hear the streets of ancient Rome, the market stalls, the shouting of merchants, the sandals slapping against cobblestones, the distant echo of the Colosseum. And in the midst of it all, a man with a scroll in his hand, not rich, not powerful, but unshakable. His enemies cannot break him. His chains cannot bind him. His poverty cannot humiliate him, because his fortress is within. That man is Epictetus, a slave who became freer than kings. Now picture another man, clothed in purple, crowned with gold, seated on the throne of the most powerful empire the world had ever seen. He commands armies. His word is law. His enemies kneel before him. And yet, in the quiet of his tent, late at night, he whispers to himself, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. That man is Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who bowed to no man, yet bowed to truth. Do you see it now? Personal development is not new. It is ancient. It is bloody. It is sacred. And if you truly want to master your life, if you truly want to rise above distraction, chaos, and the weakness that enslaves billions today, you must first understand the soil your roots come from. The soil of Stoicism. The soil of warriors who chose virtue over vanity, discipline over desire, courage over comfort. This is not just philosophy. This is not just history. This is your inheritance. And tonight, we will open the vault. We will step into the silence of centuries, and we will walk side by side with the original architects of human greatness. But beware, this journey is not safe, because once you see the origins of personal development, once you see how high the standard truly is, you cannot go back. You cannot unlearn it. You cannot unhear it. You cannot hide from it. The truth will haunt you. The truth will burn you. And the truth will demand from you nothing less than everything. Welcome to the beginning. We live in the most connected age in history. 1,000 screens in every direction. 1,000 voices screaming for our attention. And yet, how strange, how tragic. We have never been more lost. We have devices in our hands more powerful than the ships that carried men across oceans. We have knowledge greater than the libraries of Alexandria. We have access to mentors, teachers, guides, books, and wisdom at the tap of a screen. And still, we feel empty. We feel restless. We feel unfulfilled. Why? Because technology gave us tools, but it did not give us meaning. Because the modern world gave us speed, but it did not give us direction. Because comfort gave us soft beds, warm food, endless entertainment, but it did not give us strength. And so every morning, millions wake up and repeat the same silent ritual. Open eyes, unlock phone, scroll, compare, consume, work, rush, eat, sleep, repeat. We call this life. But is it life, or is it slow death? Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And if he could see us now, endlessly scrolling, endlessly comparing, endlessly chasing approval from strangers we will never meet, would he not laugh? Would he not cry? Would he not say, "You are not living. You are dying with distractions"? Pause. Let silence breathe. Voice lowers, almost whispering. Look around. Depression, anxiety, burnout. These are the plagues of the modern world. Not spears, not arrows, not invading armies, but invisible enemies, enemies of the mind. The warrior of today is not on the battlefield. He is in a cubicle. She is in a boardroom. He is trapped in traffic. She is scrolling at midnight, comparing her life to filtered fragments of someone else's. And though no blood is spilled, make no mistake, lives are lost every day, not to death, but to distraction, not to violence, but to meaninglessness. The modern battlefield is the mind. Think about it. We have conquered nature, but not our own desires. We have built skyscrapers that scrape the heavens, but we collapse under the weight of comparison. We have flown to the moon, but we cannot sit still in silence for 5 minutes without reaching for a glowing screen. And so, despite wealth, despite comfort, despite progress, we remain enslaved. Epictetus, born a slave, chained by another man's command, was freer than most of us today because he mastered the one chain we refuse to break, the chain of our own restless mind. We think freedom means doing whatever we want, eating what we crave, buying what we desire. saying what we feel. But the Stoics would call this slavery, because he who is ruled by desire is never free. Tell me, what rules you? Your phone? Your cravings? Your fear of what others think? Your addiction to comfort? This is why modern life feels so heavy, because we are carrying invisible chains. We wear them like jewelry. We polish them like trophies. We even call them freedom. But deep inside, our souls know the truth. We are prisoners of our own weakness. The ancients fought lions in the Colosseum. We fight the lion of procrastination. They faced the sword. We face the endless scroll. They feared exile and death. We fear being unfollowed. Is this not madness? Is this not tragedy? And yet, this is our world, a world overflowing with everything and starving for meaning. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." And here we are, alive by heartbeat, but dead by distraction. We have length of years, but no depth of life. We exist, but we do not live. That is the great disease of modern times. And here lies the paradox. The more the world gives us, the weaker we become. The easier life gets, the harder it is to live with purpose. The safer we are, the more fragile our minds grow. But the Stoics knew this truth 2,000 years ago, that life will always test us, whether through war, through poverty, through tyranny, or through comfort, through wealth, through distraction. The test is the same. The battlefield is the same. The enemy is the same. It is the mind, always the mind. And until we return to the ancient wisdom of those who mastered this inner battlefield, we will remain soldiers who never lift their sword. We will remain prisoners who never see their chains. We will remain kings who never rule their own kingdom. And so, before we learn the weapons of the Stoics, before we wield the armor that made them unshakable, we must first face the truth. The truth that the greatest suffering of modern life is not poverty. It is not hunger. It is not danger. It is emptiness. It is meaninglessness. It is the slow erosion of the soul by comfort, distraction, and wasted time. And until you see this truth, until you admit this truth, you will never be ready for the path. But if you are ready, if you feel the weight of this struggle deep in your chest, if you know you were not born to live as a slave to pleasure, fear, and distraction, then stay with me, because the Stoics left us weapons. They left us shields. They left us maps. And if you dare to take them, you will no longer walk as a victim of the modern world. You will walk as a warrior of the eternal. The question is not, can you escape this struggle? The question is, will you rise above it? You have seen the battlefield. You have felt the chains of distraction. You know the pain of living in a world overflowing with noise, but starving for meaning. Now listen, the ancients left us weapons. They did not sharpen steel for our hands. They sharpened wisdom for our minds. The Stoics knew the greatest war is never against another man. The greatest war is always within. And so they forged weapons of the soul, not swords, but principles, not shields of bronze, but shields of thought, not armies of soldiers, but armies of habits. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, held more power than any man alive. Legions obeyed his command. Nations trembled at his name. Yet each night, when he returned to his tent on the battlefield, he did not write about conquest. He did not write about power. He did not write about fame. He wrote to himself. He wrote reminders. He wrote weapons for the mind. "Do not waste the little time you have left," he wrote. "Do not let anger or desire rule you. You cannot control the world. You can only control yourself. Control yourself, and you control everything. Imagine Marcus, alone in his tent, the fire flickering, the sound of soldiers outside sharpening blades, drinking, singing. But he is silent. He is writing. His pen, a sword, his thoughts, armor. Because he knew what good is ruling an empire if you cannot rule your own mind. Then there is Epictetus, born a slave. His master beat him, chained him, owned his body. And yet Epictetus laughed. Because though they owned his body, they could never own his mind. One day, his master twisted his leg in cruelty. Epictetus warned him, "If you continue, you will break it." The master laughed and pressed harder until the bone snapped. And Epictetus, instead of screaming, instead of cursing, said calmly, "I told you it would break." That was his weapon. Indifference to pain. Indifference to what he could not control. He lost his freedom. He lost his body. But he kept his soul. And in that choice, he was freer than his master ever could be. And then Seneca, the wealthy philosopher, advisor to an emperor who would later order his death. Seneca had everything: wealth, influence, power, luxury. But he knew none of it could protect him from fate. So he trained himself daily to let it go. He would eat simple meals despite his wealth. He would remind himself, "What if fortune takes it all away? Will I still stand?" And when Nero, his emperor, finally commanded him to die, Seneca opened his veins calmly. He accepted death as a guest already expected, because he had practiced it his whole life. 3 men, a king who ruled the world, a slave who ruled himself, a senator who ruled his fear of death. 3 different lives, one shared weapon, the weapon of Stoicism. And what is this weapon made of? It is forged of 3 blades. First blade, control. The Stoics taught control is the ultimate power, not control over others, not control over the world, but control over your mind, your reactions, your judgments. Second blade, discipline. Every comfort weakens you, every indulgence softens you, but every act of discipline sharpens your soul like steel. Wake early, work hard. Resist desire, not for others, not for applause, but because discipline is freedom. Third blade, perspective. Life is short, death is certain, fortune is blind. So why fear what you cannot control? Why waste your soul on what is temporary? Perspective frees you from chains that are not real. Control, discipline, perspective. The 3 blades of Stoicism. Wield them, and you are unshakable. But do not mistake them for mere ideas. These are not bedtime stories. These are not feel-good quotes to decorate your wall. These are survival tools. Because when life collapses, when betrayal stabs you, when failure crushes you, when death knocks on your door, it is these weapons that keep you standing. Picture yourself. You lose your job. You lose your relationship. Your reputation shatters. Your friends abandon you. What remains? Only what you have built inside. Your inner fortress. Your weapon of the soul. This is why the Stoics did not cry for comfort. They did not beg for easier lives. They asked for strength. They trained for hardship. They embraced fate. They knew storms will come. Swords will fall. Life will betray you. But if your mind is armed, nothing can break you. Marcus ruled an empire. Epictetus ruled himself. Seneca ruled fear. And now it is your turn. You? Yes, you. Do you think your struggle is new? Do you think your anxiety is special? Do you think your heartbreak is unique? Number, it is the same struggle humanity has faced for thousands of years. The same storm, the same pain, the same battlefield. And the same weapon that saved them can save you. But remember, a weapon is useless in the hands of one who will not wield it. It is not enough to know Stoicism. You must live it, breathe it, bleed it, because the battle is not coming tomorrow. The battle is here, now. So take up the weapon. Wield it like your life depends on it, because it does. Soldier of the soul, listen carefully. You have been handed the weapon. But a weapon without strategy is useless. A sword without training is only dead weight. So now I will give you the battle plan. This is not motivation. This is not inspiration. This is survival training. The enemy is not out there. The enemy is within. And unless you master the battlefield of your mind, you will be destroyed, that not by others, but by yourself. Pause. Voice lowers, prophetic echo. So here are the Stoic commands. Memorize them, etch them into your blood, live them until they become instinct. When the sun rises, most people are already slaves. Slaves to their phones, slaves to distraction, slaves to comfort. But a Stoic does not wake to weakness. A Stoic wakes to war. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "At dawn, when you wake unwillingly, have this thought: I am rising to do the work of a human being." Your first act of the day decides the rest of your day. If you choose weakness, weakness rules. If you choose strength, strength carries you forward. So wake with discipline. Rise before excuses rise. Do not grab your phone. Do not drown in noise. Stand tall. Breathe deeply. Face the day with the mind of a warrior. This is your first victory. Life will hurt you. This is not a threat. This is a fact. But pain is not your enemy. Pain is your training ground. Epictetus said, "Difficulties show what men are." When you are tested, do not curse your fate. When you are betrayed, do not collapse. When you fail, do not despair. Say instead, "This is my moment. This is my fire. This is where my soul is forged." The weak see obstacles. The Stoic sees opportunities. Every rejection is a sharpening stone. Every failure is a teacher. Every heartbreak is fuel. Do not waste suffering. Use it. You cannot stop storms. You cannot stop betrayal. You cannot stop death. But you can stop yourself from being destroyed by them. Seneca wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." Do you understand what this means? It means your fear, your anger, your stress. Most of it is not real. It is not the event that destroys you. It is your reaction to the event. So when anger rises, pause. When fear hunts you, breathe. When desire whispers, remember your duty. Control reaction, and you control the battlefield. The world tells you discipline is chains. The world tells you comfort is freedom, but the world lies. Comfort is slavery. Discipline is freedom. When you choose discipline, you are no longer ruled by impulse. You are no longer enslaved by desire. You are no longer weak. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." Bravery is not the absence of fear. Bravery is mastery over it. So fast when others feast. Work when others sleep. Stand tall when others fall. Live as though your life depends on your discipline, because it does. Memento mori. Remember, you will die. Every Stoic carried this truth, not as despair, but as power. Death is not the enemy. Death is the reminder that your time is short, the reminder that every wasted hour is a wound you can never heal. Marcus Aurelius whispered to himself, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do, say, and think. So live as if every breath is borrowed. Live as if every word may be your last. Live as if fate has already marked today as your ending. And if you do, fear vanishes, excuses vanish, weakness vanishes, only purpose remains. Now listen, warrior of the soul, this battle plan is not for tomorrow. It is not for when you feel ready. It is for now, because the war has already begun. The enemy is already inside your gates. Doubt is whispering, fear is knocking, desire is tempting, anger is waiting, and if you hesitate, you lose. So wake like a Stoic, suffer like a Stoic, react like a Stoic, discipline like a Stoic, die like a Stoic. Do this, and no power on earth can break you. But remember, knowing the plan is not enough. The plan is only as strong as the one who carries it out. The weapon is in your hand. The plan is in your mind. Now, will you fight? The silence before revelation is heavier than thunder. The world pauses. Your breath slows. The air feels thick, almost unbearable, as if it carries with it the weight of every choice you have made, every regret you have buried, every battle you fought in vain. And in that suffocating silence, the Stoic truth emerges. Not gentle, not comforting, but like a blade pressed against the very fabric of your soul. For centuries, humanity has lived with illusions. We tell ourselves that happiness is waiting at the end of success, that peace comes when the noise of the world finally dies down, that meaning lies in the applause of others. But the Stoics warned us with voices that echoed through marble halls and battlefields alike, that all of these are shadows, smoke, illusions crafted by desire. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Yet how many of us live our entire lives as prisoners of those imaginations? How many of us bleed from wounds that were never inflicted, ache from losses that never occurred, and collapse under burdens that exist only in thought? This is the soul-crushing truth the Stoics delivered. Most of your suffering is self-created. Most of your chains are forged not by society, not by your enemies, not by fate itself, but by your own mind. And here is the most brutal blow. You are not only the prisoner, you are also the jailer. Pause. Let that sink in. The keys have always been in your hands, and yet, day after day, you choose to rattle your chains, to curse your cell, to whisper about freedom while refusing to step into the open field of discipline and self-control. Marcus Aurelius, a man who commanded armies, who ruled one of the most powerful empires in history, still confessed in his meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But do we realize it? Or do we, in our arrogance, in our hunger for comfort, continue to chase control where control does not exist? Here is the paradox, the sword that cuts both ways. The world will never bend to your will, yet your mind can bend the world itself. If you fail to master your thoughts, you will spend a lifetime in chains, shackled not by emperors or tyrants, but by whispers in your own head. This is the climax of Stoic philosophy. It does not coddle. It does not promise eternal joy or endless pleasure or a life free of pain. Instead, it delivers the one truth that can both break you and rebuild you. The mind is both the battlefield and the prize. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a storm. Lightning cracks the sky. Thunder shakes the ground. The wind is screaming, violent, merciless. That storm is life, chaotic, unpredictable, beyond your control. But within you, there is another storm, the tempest of desire, fear, anger, and doubt. And it is fiercer than anything nature could conjure. Most people spend their lives trying to silence the storm outside. They rearrange their careers, their relationships, their possessions, thinking that If the outer storm calms, they will finally know peace. But the Stoic truth, the unbearable soul-shattering truth, is that the outer storm will never truly stop. Life will always throw fire, always send floods, always rip through your plans. The only storm you can master is the one inside. And here lies the final test. Are you willing to face yourself? Not the mask you wear, not the lies you tell, but the raw self, fragile, craving, fearful, restless. Can you sit with that storm and refuse to flinch? Epictetus declared, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That line is not poetic. It is a dagger. It cuts through your excuses. It exposes the truth. Freedom is not granted by nations. Freedom is not delivered by wealth. Freedom is not handed to you by time. Freedom comes only when you have shackled your own vices, conquered your own cravings, silenced your own fears. Think of it. What greater tragedy exists than a man who rules empires but cannot rule himself? What greater failure exists than a woman who commands wealth but collapses when fortune turns? What greater defeat exists than a soul that cannot stand alone? The Stoics understood. The battlefield is not the marketplace. The battlefield is not the Senate. The battlefield is not the war front. The battlefield is the mind. And most will lose before the first blow is even struck. Here is the soul-crushing truth, the kind that leaves you shaken. You will die sooner than you think. The curtain will fall, and all your striving, your worrying, your constant seeking will vanish like mist in the morning sun. And when that moment comes, the only question worth asking will echo like thunder. Did you rule your mind, or did your mind rule you? Most will answer with silence, because most never dared to fight. But you who listens to these words, you who feels the weight of truth pressing against your chest, you still have time. Not much, but enough. Enough to sharpen the weapon the Stoics left behind. Enough to stand in the storm. Enough to wrestle your mind into stillness. Enough to walk into death, not as a prisoner, not as a slave, but as a warrior. For the Stoics, death was not the enemy. Death was the reminder, the wake-up call, the voice whispering at every sunrise, do not waste this day. Do not squander this hour. Master yourself before it is too late. This is not inspiration. This is not motivation. This is war, and the battlefield is waiting. The storm fades. The dust settles. The battlefield of the mind lies before you, silent now, but scarred, marked by every struggle you have faced, every temptation you resisted, and every moment you collapsed. And as the silence deepens, one realization cuts through all the noise. This was never about them. This was always about you. Your enemies are not the people who mocked you, nor the ones who betrayed you, nor the strangers who laughed as you stumbled. Your true enemy was always within, the whisper that told you you can't, the craving that said, one more, the anger that hissed, strike back, the fear that trembled, stay small. And now you stand at the edge of that realization, trembling but awake. The Stoics did not write to entertain. They wrote to pierce, to challenge, to awaken. Marcus Aurelius never meant his meditations to be read by others. They were reminders to himself, midnight confessions scribbled in candlelight. Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good. Do you hear it? That is not philosophy. It is urgency. It is a warrior speaking to himself in the darkness, reminding his soul to rise before dawn, to master his mind before the world masters him. Epictetus, born a slave, beaten, crippled, and discarded, still declared with unshakable clarity, "You may fetter my leg, but my will not even Zeus himself can overpower." He had nothing, and yet he was freer than emperors. Why? Because he had won the only war that matters, the war within. And Seneca, writing to a friend as he awaited death, whispered into history, "Life is long if you know how to use it. Do you? Do you know how to use it? Or will you waste it in distraction and comparison, in the endless scrolling of hours that vanish into dust?" The Stoics were not superhuman. They were not gods. They were men who felt fear, anger, loneliness, temptation. They bled, they cried, they broke, and yet they chose discipline, chose virtue, chose mastery. And in those choices, they left behind not marble statues or crumbling temples, but a weapon that still cuts today, the art of controlling the mind, and now it is yours. The torch is in your hands, but what will you do with it? The clock ticks. Your life is not infinite. Death walks beside you even now, patient, silent, waiting. And if you wait for tomorrow, tomorrow will betray you. The Stoics did not promise endless days. They promised clarity in this day, this hour, this moment. So I ask you, what will you do right now? Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Will you take the first step into mastery? Will you choose to control your mind before the world swallows it whole? Pause, breathe, feel your heart beating. That is life, pounding within you. That is time, slipping away. Do not waste it. The origins of personal development do not begin with self-help books. They do not begin with motivational speeches. They do not begin with the noise of gurus and influencers. They began here with the Stoics. Now the path lies open. Step onto it, walk it. Stumble if you must, but walk it. And when the storms come, and they will, remember the words that echoed through empires and survive even now. Control your mind, and you will control your world. The words of the Stoics were not whispers. They were flames, and each generation either carries the fire forward or lets it die in the ashes. Think about this. Marcus Aurelius could have been remembered only as a Roman emperor, Epictetus only as a crippled slave, Seneca only as a tutor to Nero. But their legacy is not their positions. Their legacy is not marble statues or broken monuments. Their legacy is the fire they left behind, a fire of wisdom, of clarity, of inner mastery. You hold that fire now. But here is the danger. Fire can warm you, or it can consume you. Knowledge is nothing without practice. Wisdom is nothing without discipline. Philosophy is nothing without action. So many chase personal development today as if it were a product to be bought, a trend to be followed, a mask to be worn. But personal development in its truest origin was not about buying books or attending seminars. It was about surviving the storms of life without collapsing. It was about walking through fire and not being burned. The Stoics trained their minds like soldiers train their bodies. They rehearsed hardship. They practiced poverty. They imagined death, not to be morbid, but to be ready, to be untouchable, to be free. Ask yourself, do you rehearse strength or do you rehearse weakness? Do you scroll endlessly, numbing your mind, or do you train it to focus, to endure, to resist? Every habit is a rehearsal. Every choice is practice. The question is, what are you practicing for? If you rehearse weakness, you will break in the storm. If you rehearse strength, you will rise through it. Pause. Look around you. The ancient world is gone, but the battles remain. They fought with swords and shields. We fight with notifications and screens. They were tempted by power, lust, and wealth. We are tempted by dopamine, likes, and endless distraction. Different masks, same enemies. The mirror of today reflects the same struggles: anxiety, fear, comparison, anger, greed. They destroy us not because they are powerful, but because we are unprepared. We live without philosophy, without armor, without strategy. The Stoics gave us the mirror. They said, look at yourself, see what you truly are. Master that you don't need to escape society. You don't need to abandon technology. You need to master your relationship with it. Epictetus would not tell you to throw away your phone. He would tell you, do not be its slave. If it controls you, destroy it. If you control it, use it. This is the mirror. The truth that your freedom or your prison is not determined by the world, but by your mind. There is a line, unbroken, from the slave Epictetus to the emperor Marcus Aurelius to you sitting here now. What connects them is not birth, not power, not status. It is the iron within. Iron does not appear soft. It is forged in fire, hammered under blows, hardened by struggle. That is what life does to you. It throws you into the fire. It beats you with trials. It crushes you under weight. The weak shatter, the strong endure. But the Stoic? The Stoic transforms. The Stoic welcomes the fire, knowing that every strike, every burn, every weight is forging them into something unbreakable. Do you understand? You are not being destroyed. You are being forged. The pain you feel is shaping you. The trials you endure are hammering you into strength. The losses, the betrayals, the failures, they are the fire. And the fire is your teacher. Seneca said, fire tests gold, suffering tests brave men. You are in the fire. Do not run. Do not beg. Stand. Endure. Transform. And now we come to the end. But endings are illusions. Every ending is a beginning disguised. The Stoics taught that life itself is borrowed. Every breath, every moment, every sunrise. You do not own it. You rent it. And the landlord, death, will collect his due. So what will you do with your lease of life? Waste it in fear? Spend it in anger? Burn it in desire? Or will you invest it in discipline, in virtue, in strength, in mastery? The world will forget your name. The monuments you build will crumble. The noise you make will fade. But the discipline you live, the strength you embody, the wisdom you practice, those ripple beyond you. They outlive you. This is the origin of personal development. Not books, not trends, not gurus, but the eternal choice to master yourself moment by moment until your last breath. So rise. Rise as a Stoic warrior. Rise as one who controls their mind. Rise as one who cannot be broken. And when death comes, and it will, you will not bow. You will not tremble. You will whisper with a steady voice, I lived as a master, not a slave. I was iron, not glass. I carried the fire, and I was free. Carry this message forward, not for me, not for views, but because the world is starving for warriors of the mind. The torch is in your hands. Do not let it die.